Hello, my name is Dr. K.P. Asha Mukundan. I am a faculty working with Tata Institute of Social Sciences, School of Social Work, Center for Criminology and Justice. Today I am going to talk about the module on theories of juvenile crime, part 2. This comes under the larger subject of criminology in the paper of juvenile justice. Today the main objective of the part 2 is to understand and appreciate theories related to crime, to understand different perspectives through which the phenomena of crime is understood, and to be able to relate to these theories. This module of theories is divided into two parts, part 1 and part 2. So, you are requested to look at both contents of both the theories and read them according to the theories that you want to refer to. This module of part 2 will look at the psychological theory, under which we look at the psychoanalytic theory. We will also be looking at the sociological theory, under which we will cover the differential association theory, restraint theory, opportunity theory, social control restraint theory, containment theory of Walter Reckless, social control theory of Travis Hirschi, differential association theory, neutralization theory. We will also look at the social learning theories, under which we will mainly be looking at the labeling theory. First, let us look at why is it important to understand theory. Juvenile crime is better understood or referred to as juvenile delinquency. Given the negative connotation to the term delinquency, this word is internationally not used in academic discourse. In India, a juvenile delinquent is referred to as juvenile a child in conflict with law, and is defined as per the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 as a child who is alleged to have committed an offence who has not completed 18 years of age on date of commission of such offence. This module at the various theories on juvenile crime developed by criminologists, sociologists and psychologists who have attempted to provide possible explanation of causes, extent and correlation among a group of observed phenomena related to crime. The major difference among the theories relates to the academic discipline in which the theorist was trained to understand human behavior. These differences in training results in differences in perceiving and understanding crime. It may be noted that the theories related to crime by children are drawn from the larger theories of crime in general. Many of the theories of crime has also resulted from the study of crimes committed by juveniles. This chapter looks at only those theories that have a bearing on understanding juvenile crimes. Here, one would also like to mention that the main objective of the module is to enable the reader to understand and appreciate the theories. No theory is superior or inferior, and no single theory will be able to explain all types of juvenile crime or behavior. Another disclaimer also that one would like to mention is that the word delinquency is used in this module. It is because although the word is not currently in use, but since it is important to use the word delinquent while explaining the word theories, the words juvenile and delinquent, as mentioned earlier, are no longer in use. However, in this module we continue to use the word because the theorists have used these words while explaining the theory. The module of theories related to juvenile crime are divided into two parts. Part 1 looks at classical school, positive school, biological and socio-biological theories, whereas part 2, which is this module, looks at the psychological theories and sociological theories of crime which can be related to understand juvenile offences. This module is part 2 of the series. Let us begin with the psychological theories. Psychological approach focuses on work with individual having deviant behavior rather than focusing on reason for deviancy. The major psychological theories of crime can be categorized into the following areas: psychoanalytical theory, learning theory, and control theory. However, the learning theory and control theory is being mentioned under the sociological theories to read social learning theory and social control theory in the module. Theories of juvenile crime part 2. Some of the common basic assumptions shared by many are: 1. Delinquent behavior is a manifestation of internal underlying disturbances. 2. Whatever the specific psychological disturbance which might exist in any particular delinquent behavior pattern, it most probably began to develop not later than early childhood and has become a fairly characteristic feature of the individual. While allowance is given for the potential modifying effects of the external environment factors, it is the individual who has the problem, and it is thus on the individual that one must focus if the problem is to be resolved and the consequent delinquent behavior is to be changed. Let us look at the psychoanalytical theory. The psychoanalytical theory developed by Sigmund Freud stated that the human personality has three psychic structures: the id, ego, and superego. The basic assumption of the psychoanalytic approach to delinquency are: 1. Each person, presumably other than the severely retarded, grows and develops in stages, particularly in stages which focus on sexual development. 2. In some cases, and for a variety of specific reasons, abnormalities occur then create conflict within a person's developing personality, usually at an early stage. 3. These conflicts arise generally from the interplay between instinctual drives and societal restraints. 4. The conflicts and the specific reasons for the development becomes painful to the individual's awareness and are pushed into the realm of the unconscious. And 5. Attempts to handle the painful conflicts are developed within the personality in the form of defense mechanisms, and these mechanisms can lead to abnormal personality patterns, of which delinquency is one behavioral manifestation. Freudian psychoanalysis approach seeks to explain behavior using three personality components called the unconscious, instinctual parts of the humankind, particularly in the battle between the id, ego, and superego. Deviance is a result of unconscious desires and drives being manifested in behavior. The aim of psychoanalysis is to identify unconscious precipitating factors and then develop conscious methods for dealing with them. Psychoanalysis seeks to discover deviant behavior by bringing unconscious conflict between id, ego, and superego. Psychoanalysis propagates that delinquent behavior is a result of underlying conflicts, often unconscious, and emotional stress. If not treated or worked upon, can become progressively worse. The psychoanalytical theory faced strong criticism as there is no mechanism to measure id, ego, and superego. The second point of contention was it is retrospective in nature. Adults' behavior is viewed as poor childhood socialization experiences. The emphasis is more on internal psychological conflicts and widely criticized for ignoring social structure and environmental factors. Another drawback of psychoanalytical theory is the difficulty encountered in attempts to measure and test concepts like id, ego, and so superego. There is a lot of subjectivity involved in the analysis of subjects used. Now, let us look at the sociological theory. While classical school and positive school emphasized on the individual and crime, sociological theories explain crime to state the reasons for pattern of behavior which can be understood in the context of the society and his or her proximal relation with the same. Sociological theories found bearing within the anomy theory propagated by Durkheim, which set the basis for theories of differential association, strain theory, social control theory, opportunity theory, conflict and social learning theories. Let us look at anomy. Anomy means normlessness. According to Durkheim, when a social system is in the state of anomy, common or accepted values and norms are questioned. However, given that there are no alternative legitimate values and meanings developed, there is a sense of chaos. According to Durkheim, such a society produces in many of its members psychological states characterized by a sense of futility, lack of purpose and emotional emptiness and despair. The breakdown of social bonds, associations and social controls in family, neighborhood and communities resulted in what Chicago scholars Thomas and Zansky termed social disorganization in 1958. Park and Burgess expanded the study of social disorganization by introducing the study of interrelationships of people and with their environment. They studied the geographic locations of high crime rates rather than criminals and developed the notion that urban development has a social pattern in the same. Shaw and Mackay expanded on the work of Park and Burgess by stating that the way neighborhood is organized in a city impacted crime. Their study confirmed that delinquency was highest in the zone of transition and decreased within neighborhoods, wherein increasing influence corresponded with the distance from the central business district. Shaw and Mackay also concluded in their study that the nature of the neighborhood and the economic status and cultural norms and values of the neighborhood were important in the regulation of crime, ethnicity and the nature of the individual within the neighborhood did not determine the likelihood of crime. Now we look into differential association theory. Edwin Sutherland advanced the theory of Shaw and Mackay to state that criminal behavior is learned through social interactions wherein opportunities to access resources are favorable to some while not favorable to some. Sutherland's differential association theory addressed explicitly the broad structural implications in society. It stated that individuals embedded within structural units are differentially exposed to definitions in favor of or opposed to delinquent and criminal behavior. The theory of differential association by Sutherland gave priority to the power of social influences and learning experiences and condensed into series of propositions which I mentioned below. 1. Criminal behavior is learnt. 2. Criminal behavior is learnt in interaction with other persons in a process of communication. 3rd, interaction with other persons are usually significant others or intimate personal groups where the principal part of the learning of criminal behavior occurs. 4th, learning of criminal behavior includes A. Techniques of committing the crime which are sometimes very complicated, sometimes very simple, and B. The specific direction of motives, drives, rationalizations and attitudes. 5th, the specific direction of motives and drives is learned from definitions of the legal codes as favorable or unfavorable. It emphasizes the role of personal networks in the transmission of attitudes and definitions favorable or unfavorable to delinquency. 6. A person becomes delinquent because of an excess of definitions favorable to violation of laws over definitions unfavorable to violation of laws. 7. The process of learning criminal behavior by association with criminal and anti-criminal patterns involves all of the mechanisms that are involved in any other learning. 8. Although criminal behavior is an expression of general needs and values, it is not explained by those general needs and values because non-criminal behavior is an expression of the same needs and values. 9. Differential association varies in frequency, duration, priority and intensity. The most frequent, long-running, earliest and closest influence will be the most efficacious or determinant of learned behavior. According to Sutherland's 7th principle, the theory does not merely state that being associated with criminals lead to crime or that being associated with law-abiding persons leads to conforming behavior. It is the nature, characteristics and content of learning that results from these association that affects an individual's likelihood of violating the law. When persons become criminals, they do so because of contact with criminal behavior patterns and also because of isolation from the anti-criminal pattern. The content of learning primarily involves two important elements of skills and techniques for committing crime. For example, how to pick pockets, where, when and how. The second element learnt is the definitions favorable and unfavorable to crime like motives, verbalization or rationalization that makes crime justified or unjustified. Now we will look into the Restraint Theory. Restraint Theory is associated mainly with the work of Robert Merton, who analyzed the individual patterns and means to achieve society's set goals during anomic conditions by identifying 5 types of adjustments. Merton refers to these 5 types of adjustments to anomic conditions as modes of individual adaptation. 1. Conformity. Conformity is to conform to goals and means and avoid becoming deviant. This is the most common response to strain in every society. Second, innovation. To strive towards culturally prescribed goals, but by illegitimate, often criminal means. Third, ritualism. To conform to society's norms without any expectation of achieving culturally prescribed goals. They go through the motions of everyday life and do not feel the need to deviate from social norms. It might never occur to them that they should commit a crime even though they might benefit from it materially. Retreatism, that is to reject goals and means, withdraws emotionally, socially from the scene. Finally, rebellion, that is to construct a new social order or goals and means to replace conventional values and norms. Political radicals, cult followers and various other members of the counterculture practice this kind of deviant adaptation. Now we shall talk about opportunity theory. Coward and Owen built on the work of Merton and Cohen by advancing the idea that youths in the slum areas lack the legitimate means and opportunities to be successful and acquire status. They suggested that lower class delinquents are proactive and goal oriented by seizing available opportunities even though most of them are illegitimate. According to Coward and Owen, opportunity theory, delinquent subcultures emerge and persist in lower class areas where there are plenty of youths who come together and support one another against the challenges they face, and also in the pursuit of illegal opportunities that exceed the number of legitimate opportunities for success. Now we shall look at the social control theory, in which we will be looking at the containment theory, social control theory and the neutralization theory. In the containment theory, this theory was devised by Walter Reckless. It is considered to be a theory of middle range as it does not explain crime or delinquency which emerges from inner pushes such as compulsion, hallucinations and personality disorder or from organic impairments. Neither does containment theory explain criminal or delinquent activity, which is a part of normal and expected roles and activities in subculturally deviant families and communities. Reckless asserts that the theory is more appropriate for minor types of delinquency such as petty thefts or fighting among peers as opposed to extreme forms of delinquency. The theory suggests that individuals are pushed and pulled into crime. Pushes are elements that pressure individuals to engage in delinquency, while pulls draw individuals away from accepted forms of behavior. The theory states that pushes and pulls are buffered by inner and outer containments. The inner containment includes self-concept, goal orientation, frustration, tolerance and norm commitment and retention. The outer containment includes the social environment in which the individual resides and reflects socialization within the community, that is, elements outside oneself. This is also why not all children resort to delinquent behavior regardless of social class or other environmental conditions. The more inner controls match outer controls, the more likely one is not going to deviate from society's norms, which provides an explanation of deviance as well as conformity. The next is the social control theory. While strain and social learning theory focused on factors that push or lead the individual into crime, Travis Hirsch's control theory focused on the factors that restrain the individual from engaging in crime and what explained conformity and adherence to rules. In contrast to an emphasis on internal factors and related to personality, he addressed external factors related to sustaining social relationships that he called social bonds. Hirschi spoke about factors related to attachment, commitment, involvement and belief. Neutralization techniques. Skies and Mazza stated techniques of neutralization are rationalization, justifications which allow offenders to shed feelings of guilt and thus justify crime. Some such justifications are denial of responsibility, that is, I am a product of my own background. Denial of an injury, no one was really hurt, so why blame me? Denial of victim, they deserve it, that's why I gave it to them. Condemnation of the condemners, the cops are corrupt, so it's okay. Appeal to higher authorities, I did it for my friends. This neutralization process is presumed to free the individual to deviate without considering himself or herself as a deviant, thus eliminating or reducing the sense of guilt. The next is the social learning theory. Burgess and Akers reformulated Sutherland's proposition into 7 statements based on the principle of operant conditioning. Deviant behavior is seen as a result of the operant conditioning which primarily but not exclusively takes place within the groups which comprise of control the individual's major sources to reinforcement. Criminal behavior is learnt according to the principles of operant conditioning. 2. Criminal behavior is learnt both in non-social situations that are reinforcing or discriminative and through that social interaction in which the behavior of other person is reinforcing or discriminative for criminal behavior. 3. The principal part of the learning of criminal behavior occurs in those groups which comprise the individual's major source of reinforcement. 4th, the learning of criminal behavior, including specific techniques, attitudes and avoidance procedures, is a function of the effective and available reinforcers and the existing reinforcement contingencies. 6th, the specific class of behaviors which are learnt and their frequency of occurrences are a function of the reinforcers which are effective and available, and the rules or norms by which these reinforcers are applied. 7. Criminal behavior is a function of norms which are discriminative for criminal behavior, the learning of which takes place when such behavior is more highly reinforced than non-criminal behavior. The strength of the criminal behavior is a direct function of the amount, frequency and probability of the reinforcement. Now we look at the differential reinforcement of crime. This states that individuals learn to engage in crime through reinforcements and punishments provided for behavior which could be intentional or unintentional. Crime is more likely to occur when 1. It is frequently reinforced and infrequently punished. For example, not being caught by the police. B. Results in large amounts of reinforcement. Example, a lot of money, social approval or pressure and little punishment. C. Is more likely to be reinforced than alternative behaviors. Reinforcements may be positive or negative. In positive reinforcement, the behavior results in something good, some positive consequence. Whereas, in negative reinforcement, behavior results in removal of something bad, or a punishment is removed or avoided. For example, suppose one's friend have been calling her a coward because she refuses to use drugs with them. The individual eventually takes drugs with them, after which time they stop calling her a coward. In continuation of the social learning theory, the other mechanisms in which the person learns or bends towards crime is the beliefs that are favorable to crime. Usually society teaches that crime is bad or wrong. This is the belief that is eventually accepted or internalized. As a result, individuals are less likely to engage in crime. However, there are individuals, communities that may not only reinforce crime, they may also teach beliefs favorable to crime. Example, terrorist groups, pickpocketing, organized crimes. These individuals are more likely to engage in crime as a result of this. The last is the imitation of criminal models. Behavior is not only a function of beliefs and reinforcements and punishment individuals receive, but also a result of imitating individuals or significant others as role models in the society. They may also imitate those who they respect or have reason to believe that imitating their behavior will result in reinforcement. For example, getting influenced by the mannerisms of a film actor. From the social learning theory, we shall now talk about the labeling theory. Frank Tannehill is considered the grandfather of labeling theory. He first introduced the idea of tagging. While conducting his studies with delinquent youth, he found that a negative tag or label often contributed to further involvement in delinquent activities. This initial tagging may cause the individual to adopt it as a part of their identity. The crux of Tannehill's argument is that the greater the attention placed on the label, the more likely the person is to identify themselves as the label. Labeling theory is also considered to be a part of internationalistic criminology that states that once young people have been labeled as criminal, they are more likely to offend. The idea is that once labeled as deviant, a young person may accept that role and be more likely to associate it with others who may have been similarly labeled. The deviant becomes stigmatized as a criminal or deviant and is likely to be considered and treated as untrustworthy by others. The labeling theory has been criticized on the grounds that it is assumed that rule breakers and deviants are typically aware of the general society's definition of right and wrong. Most know that what they are doing would be regarded as deviance by a substantial proportion of their fellow members of the society may not, and this would be especially true for the juvenile population. Summarizing, Sociological perspectives on crime theory have strong roots in the structure of the society. They share the foregoing characteristics in various degrees pertaining to socialization and the process of association between individuals, the clash of norms and values between various socialized groups, and existence of subcultures and varying types of opportunities. As mentioned in the start, all theoretical positions are open to criticism, and one of the major criticism within sociological theories has been on the focus of majority of theories on the lower socio-economic strata of society. These theories should, however, be evaluated only in terms of what is purposed to explain. There is a lot of information on theories available online. There are also plenty of books, and the whole concept of criminological theories, where juvenile theories are a part of, is very well documented. We have given a list of references along with this module. Do refer to it for further information and details. Thank you.